But the problem with Brazil was a fun movie, or a movie that
it was an interesting movie. Brazil is a fun, interesting movie to look at. I mean, it we talked about before, it has its draggy on moments, but at least I don't hate everything that Brazil stands for. unlike this beautiful movie we watched.
Wow. You hate everything that this movie stands for.
As far as, with the way that it ends, yeah. Go fuck yourself.
Okay.
Go fuck yourself.
Okay. Maybe we don't bury the lead here. On this episode of the Kulturecast, I am still your host, Chris Stachiw. It's true. Much to the chagrin of many, and I'm joined by my good friend all the way from Parts Unknown, otherwise known as the Scary Stories We Tell podcast. One of the hosts over there, your friend and mine, Jess Byard.
Hello to all my friends.
Oh, man. Pretty good Charles Bukowski impersonation you just did there. On this episode of the Kulturecast, we are going to be talking about the aforementioned movie that if you clicked on the episode, we're talking about. We're going to be talking about a little film. If you're a fan of Charles Bukowski, you're probably here as well. From 1987, aptly titled Barfly.
This is a world where everybody's got to do something. They got to be something. Sometimes I just get tired of thinking of all the things that I don't want to do, all the things that I don't want to be. How come nobody sits next to her?
She's crazy.
Crazy? Oh.
You're the damnedest barfly I've ever seen. Hobbies, none. Religion, none. Education, none.
What the hell are you doing?
The word asks your sex, you've written none.
Well, hardly none.
Your life is just a bunch of can'ts. You can't work, and you can't fight.
I could look at a woman's legs for hours.
I got nothing but time.
Every time I get with a woman, something happens.
Stop or I'll fire!
You're Henry Chinaski. I'm one of the main producers of the Contemporary Review of Art and Literature.
We've discovered you.
I had an idea that I'd be discovered after my death.
How does it feel to be on the other end?
I smell it. Perfume.
Where's the bedroom? Baby, look around. It's a cage with golden bars.
Either you get out of here or I'm gonna peel you away from your perfume.
We don't have to be barflies right down to the grave.
Mickey Rourke.
Just one thing. I don't ever want to fall in love.
Faye Dunaway.
Don't worry. Nobody's ever loved me yet.
Barfly. Life on the Edge. As seen by Charles Bukowski. Directed by Barbet Schroeder.
The film is directed by Barbet Schroeder, written by Charles Bukowski, adapting his own work for screen, and it stars Mickey Rourke, Faye Dunaway, Alice Krige, the Borg Queen is here. And my favorite part of this entire movie, take it back, do. It's Frank Stallone, everybody, because, he needed to work. My wife goes, why does that guy look like Sylvester Stallone? And I went, because it's Sylvester Stallone's brother. And she goes, oh, he's not a very good actor. And I go, he can't, he's not Sylvester Stallone.
Look, I'm going to have a hot take here right off the bat and say that Sylvester Stallone can only do Rocky Balboa and Rambo. So I'm not going to classify Sylvester Stallone as the best actor in the world either.
Look,
he is better than Frank.
Yeah,
but really, Frank Stallone is fine in this movie. He does the character that he's supposed to be. It's fine. He's honestly one of the least insufferable people because I kind of understand his giant annoyance to this person that is Mickey Rourke that just is constantly in his bar.
So, speaking to that, the movie does follow Mickey Rourke as Harry Chinaski,
There's Charles Bukowski.
Yeah, the thinly veiled Charles Bukowski, who spends his days walking around Los Angeles, going to bars, the the bar for the most part throughout the movie is the Golden Horn, and he goes in there and he drinks, and it's I don't think that this movie necessarily has or doesn't have a plot per se, but it definitely is it's a vibe movie. It's a vibe movie of a certain time and place in LA and a certain group of people in LA. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Like, look, it's like, like After Hours or anything like that, or what's the one with Jeff Goldblum where it's like the end of the world? Yeah, Miracle Mile. It's sort of that, sort of a slice of life, but the dark side of life. We're just going to follow around either some people who are doomed or miscreants of society who are also doomed, but in a different way. And a Leaving Las Vegas. This has a Leaving Las Vegas vibe to it too, minus the ultra depressive ending.
Right. Well, yeah, I would say this movie versus Leaving Las Vegas. Leaving Las Vegas doesn't, I'm not saying that this movie makes light of alcohol addiction and alcoholism, but.
Well, according to everything, it's a black comedy.
Right.
It's a dark comedy, Chris. We're supposed to be laughing at this. And look, there were a couple things I chuckled at. But I was just annoyed.
I mean, it's very much Chinaski is an anti-hero. I mean, he is very much in
every sense of the word. Yeah. You really have to dig down deep to want to care at all about this character. And I think there's only one moment I could point to in this movie where I was kind of like, aw, but other than that, we'll continue. We'll get into it.
Well, yeah. So I will kick it to you first, Jess. This is the first time you watched it, similarly to myself. But let me know what you thought about Charles Bukowski's Barfly.
First of all, I think that any movie that starts with presented by and then puts a very well-known, very well-to-do, at least at the time, because Francis Ford Coppola doesn't make good movies anymore. But at the time, Francis Ford Coppola was tip-top of his game. And so we have this presented by Francis Ford Coppola. And I think that that's always a red flag.
Well, it was presented, I think it was presented at Cannes by
but I mean,
Coppola,
in credits, it pops.
It's I get that they presented
it to distract you. It's trying to make you kind of think that this is a Francis Ford Coppola movie.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh no, it's not. And I don't know, what has Barbet Schroeder done?
Not I mean, a lot of things, but not a lot of things that I think you would recognize. I mean, some stuff with Bukowski. I mean, he was the one who was kind of instrumental in getting this movie made because he commissioned this movie. I mean, he was like, I want to. I mean,
scripts,
right? He wanted to. He wanted to make this movie. He wanted to make Barfly. So
yes, backtracking. Yeah, first of all, I think it's a red flag when a movie tries to distract you with a big name director or whatever that really has nothing absolutely to do with the film in the least
at all.
Other than maybe throwing money into it, which is all I can assume is what happened here. I can't imagine that much else happened, and I could be wrong. But here's the other thing: I don't like Charles Bukowski in the slightest. I find him incredibly insufferable. Yes, I think that he did have a very distinct and interesting and talented way of writing, but I think he is a person, which is conveyed throughout this movie, because again, this is a quote-unquote semi-autobiographical book that was turned into a movie about Charles Bukowski.
By Charles Bukowski. And everything that I had imagined about Charles Bukowski was true.
He is an insufferable person, and he knows it, and that's my most hated type of person. Hate is a strong word. My most disliked type of person is the person who knows, there's a point in this movie where he's in the car with this woman who's had Jack Nance track him down just because she found one of his short stories and thought that he was such this poet and da. And she's like, why do you live like a bum? And he's like, I am. And it's like, okay, that's great, but you're really awful and you just really do nothing about it and you don't care. And so why should I? And I mean, he's every young, angry white man's favorite fucking author. So
that or Ayn Rand.
That or Ayn Rand, yes. And both of those authors I find insufferable, and all of their movie renditions have also been insufferable.
I will say, in terms of Bukowski as a writer, I read Factotum last year, and I thought it was fine. It's fine. I mean, it's kind of same character, Harry Chinaski. It's very much the same thing that we see here. A lot of, transgressiveness, especially in terms of like the places he's going, the things he's doing.
Right.
He's pretty transgressive as a person.
Here's the thing about that. I like transgressiveness in, film and literature and art and all of that, but I like transgressiveness that is not, this is like the Joker movie, right? The Joaquin Phoenix Joker movie.
Where I think this is better than that, but I see what you're getting.
Yes, but I mean character-wise, we're just supposed to be rooting for this person who makes terrible, bad decisions one after another, who's doing nothing but hurting himself and in turn, people around him. And absolutely not a goddamn thing changes in his character. Like, an anti-hero is one thing when they have a character arc, right? Like, where they're that reluctant hero, they're the anti-hero, where they're like, yeah, I'm this hard ass, or I'm this I have this person, I have major trauma in my life and I can't deal with these things, da 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 da. But at some point in the story, they have a turning moment for either better or worse. But Henry just stays the same from start to finish. I like the nice little bookendy scenes for the beginning and end of the movie to signify that this is just going to keep you, spoiler alert. He just continues to be a horrible alcoholic, making terrible decisions, fighting Frank Stallone out back at the bar every other night. And I'm supposed to be what am I supposed to get from this? I like transgressiveness that is making a point for either to enlighten people about a certain situation that maybe, they need to think about, or just something. But this to me and I think it's obviously because, a lot of my feelings towards this movie and Charles Bukowski are tinted by, 2023 glasses. Right? Like, nothing in this movie would fly in any movies today. And I'm not saying that as like movies like this shouldn't be made. But in a world like we live in today, where this movie is glorifying essentially like this just do nothing, cause havoc, be violent, drink yourself, stupid lifestyle for no reason, but also still continue to kind of benefit. Like, he's not unhappy. He likes this life. He wants to continue this life, no matter what is happening, around him and to the people around him.
I don't think I disliked it as much as you did. I mean, look, obviously, I understand the problematic nature of Charles Bukowski, and I think anybody who reads any sort of literature or consumes art in any way. I mean, look, some people can separate the art from the artist. And some people can't, and some people don't want to, and some people do want to.
And for me, I know that I am, as with any other person, I have my selective hearing on that, right? Like, I do have my artists and my filmmakers and my writers that I still enjoy their art who are problematic people. Yeah. But in this case, I think it's just the culmination of everything about these characters. And I mean, look, like, it's a nice, I like the look of like old LA. I like the scenery in this movie. I don't hate looking at this movie per se. I hate looking at Mickey Rourke and the stupid pushed out jaw thing that he's doing this entire movie.
Yeah, I think my issue with Bukowski and Mickey Rourke and this movie in general is, yes, I agree with you. It kind of is not painting it in a positive light, but it's definitely not having a serious conversation about what these people are dealing with.
Exactly.
But at the same time, like, I don't know how to say this, but like, it's Charles Bukowski. Like, I don't think he gave a shit. And but you know what?
Didn't.
And in a way,
that's the point.
Yeah, and in a way, I'm okay with that. It's the same way I'm okay with Burroughs being kind of I wouldn't say overtly pedophilic, but I mean there is a there is pedophilic undertones in Burroughs' work, which is, I think, just as, his friendship with Allen Ginsberg aside. But I mean, that in and of itself is kind of a weird, problematic thing because, again, one of the great American authors, I don't know, maybe Bukowski is not considered one. I think
he is.
Yeah, I would think he is.
I think in the kind of independent, contemporary literature world, I would say that he is. William S. Burroughs is. I don't like William S. Burroughs either. And I
kind of totally get, like.
Yeah. And I tried to read both of them in high school when I was like trying to find, like fringy type of writing and like the beyond Stephen King, like the basics of horror and.
Right. You really went for it when you read Naked Lunch. I mean, it is.
Yeah. And I read half of it in high school and I was like, I don't care. I don't care. And I think
it's fair
that's ultimately what it is, because one of my biggest pet peeves of a person's personality makeup is the "I'm an asshole and I don't care" vibe.
Yeah, well, I mean, Burroughs and Bukowski,
like movie, yeah, both of them, but that is effectively this movie. And I have met so many, not obviously people who are this drunk and just in disarray as Mickey Rourke is in this movie. But I have met so many people with that personality of, yeah, I'm an asshole. I have these shitty opinions. I blah, 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 blah. And that's great. But keep it to your fucking self then. If you're not going to open your mouth and say anything of substance past that, I'm done. Like, I don't care. So Faye Dunaway's leg.
You don't want to go pick corn with Faye Dunaway?
I do want to go pick corn with Faye Dunaway, not in this movie, but just in real life, because I feel like that would be just a trip.
I think again, for me, it's not that it glorifies it. It's not that it doesn't, confront it in a serious way. And I get those.
Pointless.
Well, but for me, I guess for me, when I kind of realized that that's what the case was and that's what was happening, I guess and I'm not saying like it's a fault of either one of us for getting on board with it or not. I kind of went okay and got on board with the movie. But the problem is there are going to be plenty of people that say, I am not going to get on board with this movie, like yourself. Right. And then it's like, well, shit. Okay. Like you're to your point. Like if you can't get on board with what the movie is, which is the kind of, everyday goings on, day in the life of Henry or Harry Bukowski. I like
day in the life movies.
Right.
I like movies that take place in a day or two. I like character studies. I just hate this character.
and that's the thing. It's like, again, it's not that he's one note, but.
And look, I will say that there are times when I do find Mickey Rourke like tiny bit charming in this movie occasionally.
It's few and far between.
Because there are moments where his character does kind of try with like Faye Dunaway, like just like it's bad, it's half-assed, it's poor decision making and logic when it comes to the decisions that he does with Faye and all of those things. But overall, it just by the time this movie ended and we realized that by that point it's like, okay, it's just a cyclical thing. This is just this character's life, and it's how Charles Bukowski, who is in this movie, ancient as he is in this movie.
I love that they linger on him too at the bar, because I was like, like who else is that? Like, there he is.
Right. I know. I was like, like 20 minutes into the movie, I'm like, okay, well, this has to be somebody who is this. And then I looked it up and I was like, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He is right there.
By the time we get to the end of this movie and it's like, okay, we know that this is just this character and this is how he lives his life and this is how he's going to continue to live his life, because, the whole thing is he gets some money. He goes to the bar and he, wastes it all. He gets some money. He goes to the bar. He wastes it all. That's what happens. And I assume, I don't know a lot about Charles Bukowski's later years, but I guess, maybe this is how he lived his life as well as living in slum and writing occasionally, while he was completely trashed. And that's fine. But okay, so what am I supposed to do with that at the end? Like, so you're just essentially, I know what's going to happen to all of these characters. Like, the people who work at the bar are going to continue to work at the bar. Mickey Rourke is eventually going to get his ass kicked by Frank Stallone or somebody else, or he's going to drink himself to death. And Faye Dunaway, yes, her character absolutely, I think, was not long for this world.
Well, and that is the thing about Mickey Rourke in this movie. You know what he's doing with Faye Dunaway.
Hey, babe.
Yeah, I again, if you can't get on board with
this movie, man,
it's a lot. I mean, it takes a lot to get on board with this movie because, again, it is really just about like the everyday life of people that are on the very far fringes of society. But then you have Mickey Rourke doing, I don't want to say it's goofy, but hey, man, like it's so bizarre because all you have to do is like go look at Bukowski talking. I mean, don't go look up the interview where he literally beats a woman in the middle of it. That could be not great. Right. Not great. Charles Bukowski, don't do that, obviously. But what's crazy to me is that performance that he's giving is not really indicative of Charles Bukowski, the person.
Right.
It's like a weird patois thing. Like
it's kind of like
it's what Steven Seagal does in his movies.
Like he's doing the dude also.
Yeah, it really is. Well, it really is Steven Seagal. Like Steven Seagal does it. Hey, man, what's going on? Like it's that weird thing, and it's like it's such an acting choice, and I don't get it here because again, it just makes him seem drowsy the whole time, and it's like, is that
he's supposed to be drunk?
But it doesn't seem drunk. It seems drowsy, like he's just like I don't know,
moderately functioning alcoholic.
Does he seem drunk to you?
I mean, yes, but that the voice does it. Like, I don't associate the affect with that being a drunk thing. I associate that. I mean, yes, it was a choice. Maybe look, I don't know anything about Mickey Rourke as an actor or his acting process or anything about that. But I could see maybe that's affect because it is sort of a like gives you a more laid back, nothing, like everything sucks, but everything rolls off my shoulder kind of vibe because this character is so volatile. So I think maybe it's like a front sort of, if you will, that Henry puts on as this sort of like nothing can faze me. But then throughout the movie, we see that. And I think like that, it's indicative that we see, characters like, why am I blanking on, Wanda. Characters like Wanda, Faye Dunaway's character, or characters like Tully, where they like this person because he's weird, which people point out all throughout this movie is that you're weird. Why are you so fucked up? What the hell happened to you? And he never answers the question. But they gravitate to him, and then he immediately, when they see him flip, when it's either, challenging the barkeep to a fight or whatever, or pushing a car into traffic with his car because he's mad that they're making out in front of him. It's also a lot of that kind of like woe is me white guy crap that I hate, where it's very obvious, like that, Tully pointed out, like perhaps you're just jealous that you want to be that guy kissing her. And he's like, yeah, probably. It's like, oh my, just shut the fuck up. I mean, we have an earlier part in this movie where he's like, oh, I can get a woman for 20 minutes, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Can we also address the line that as I was watching this movie, five minutes into this movie, and I'm sitting here and I'm like looking down at something for a minute, and I just hear this woman who's a continuous person throughout this movie, just as one of the other barflies, who is a hooker.
Here we go. Say it, Jess.
And says the line, "No one can swallow paste like I can," in reference to giving this old, greasy, gross man a blowjob behind the bar.
As one does.
And then there's multiple references to her being so good at this thing. And mind you, I also thought it was interesting, and I kind of liked this aspect of it because it felt more real, that almost everyone in these bars are like 50 and older, not looking so good. Like no one in these places is doing well. Like this isn't a bar where like a bunch of 20 and 30 somethings are going to come rolling in and there's just like a few haphazard barflies. It is a bar of like, they are all barflies. We're just following this particular one.
Right. And at the time, Mickey Rourke is 35 35 and
he looks like 40.
Yeah, like I look, obviously
this is when
Bukowski is an older guy, but it's just hard to believe that he looks this old. Like he just looks, I don't know, like they gave him some like caveman prosthetics. Like I don't get it. Charles Bukowski doesn't look like that. Bukowski looked pretty erudite. Like
he looks like a mummy in this movie, but
but like I don't know, like
but no, Mickey Rourke is, and I don't know. So this is what, 1986? 1987. When did Angel Heart come out?
82.
Okay, so I think what has happened here is we have witnessed the progress of Mickey Rourke the boxing.
Barfly and Angel Heart came out the same year.
No shit.
Yeah, this is prosthetic work, Jess. I'm telling you.
And throughout the whole movie, he has like a black eye perpetually. So he's constantly got like this squinty, half open eye the entire time. And he's doing this weird, like I said, this weird pointed out jaw thing. And the way he walks, and like Faye Dunaway's character Wanda points it out at one point in the movie, like the way he walks, you know, like give this blue collar, like I own the room kind of walk to him. But I'm like, is that what you see? Because what I see is somebody who looks like they're pretending like a human being walking through a room that they've never been a human being before in their life.
Well, Bukowski said that he was not the biggest fan of Mickey Rourke's portrayal of him in the movie. And I could see why. It's
because it's not him.
Yeah, well, it's not him. And it's like, again, like I can't tell if it's being played for laughs or if it's being played for like how pathetic he is. You know, the moment when he answers the door and Jack Nance is there and he's bleeding from the head. And like, he's like, he's like, Edward Bukowski. He's like, no, I'm not. Whatever, bye. And he's like, that's funny. Like, that is a funny moment. But it's a funny moment in a movie where, for the most part, I can't, you know, it like you mentioned at the top of this episode, like, oh, it's a black comedy. It's like, but
it doesn't feel like one. It feels exactly.
Feels like you could define it as one, but I don't think it meets the definition of one at all.
Because it has a few awkwardly funny moments, doesn't make it a dark. Because it's about people who are like really down on their luck, doesn't make it a dark comedy. It is a dark part of society that exists. And I think that my issue with this movie lies in that, like, I would rather have a movie about that in a more serious fashion. Like, with, you know, I would rather a Leaving Las Vegas than this.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know. I did enjoy the mundanity of the alcoholics being alcoholics together and just, I don't know, like, I'm not one. I've never struggled with that kind of addiction. And, you know, it's interesting to see this. I mean, I do understand and I do agree with you that, you know, obviously it is kind of making light of it, maybe. But again, it is Charles Bukowski. I mean, if it's anybody else, I kind of look at it differently. But when I think of Charles Bukowski, I think of people on the fringes of society being glorified, because that is what Bukowski
and it's like
does.
Robert Crumb and all of, you know, and Harvey Keitel, which I do like Harvey
Burroughs,
Keitel.
You know, just like Burroughs too. Like.
And it's just not my jam. And I think that if it were, I will say that I'm biased and think that if it were not like just a group of very, very problematic cis white men doing transgressive, I'm an asshole and you just have to deal with it bullshit, I might feel a little different if it was told from a different perspective than that, because it's just like, okay, cool, good for you for just continuing on this way.
Well, and that again, like, that is the thing that I come back to with this movie. It's like the problem, I think, ultimately becomes that if you're not really, you know, interested in going on the journey with these characters that the movie is setting us on, there's nothing to grab onto. There's nothing redeeming about it if that's where you come in at it. I mean, again, I understand. I mean, that's the problem with this movie. And, you know, Mark Begley covered it on his show, I want to say last year, maybe, or earlier this year. And, you know, that episode was also kind of all over the place because, you know, again, one of the people didn't like the movie at all. And it's like, I don't think I've had a lot of folks on the show, Jess, who have been like, I didn't like this at all.
Yeah.
Like that. And that's, I'm not saying it makes having a conversation hard, but like the problem.
A few movies, but not.
Yeah. But this movie feels like in a lot of ways, like you could even say that it's going out of its way to be transgressive. And look, like, that's okay. Like, transgressive art goes out of its way to be transgressive. I mean, that's in a lot of ways what makes things transgressive is their inability to stop being what they are. But I do think at some point, like, I was hoping that there would be maybe not a message per se, but maybe like a moment of clarity of some kind. And I think Alice Krieg offers that sort of, but it feels almost like it's tacked on that's a narrative problem. Like, that's not I don't like the characters problem. It's like narratively, the movie kind of finally gets going in the last 20 minutes, literally the last 20 minutes of the movie.
The whole side, B plot of the character of Tully, who's gone to such lengths as to hire a private investigator who is played by Jack Nance, who looks the same in every single movie.
Literally.
Like, I at first thought I turned on the wrong thing. Like, when he appeared, I'm like, wait a minute, what am I watching?
It's fair.
But goes to such lengths to find this character because of a short story, and goes so far as to, like, yes, here's the other thing. That's my main issue, like a big issue for me in this movie. Fuck you if I'm gonna have to believe that Faye Dunaway and Alice Krieg are mad about this man. This awful, awful man that's so much so that the last fucking 10 minutes of the movie is a cat fight over Mickey Rourke in this movie. And I'm sorry, Heather, if you listen to this episode, Mickey Rourke is only hot in Angel Heart and 9.5.
I see the appeal of Mickey Rourke in this movie. I do get it. I get it. I get it only because, again, like, there is that part of me that I swear to God, I genuinely say this. I do think it would be fun to, like, not do something like this, but like go and experience fringe culture a little bit, because I have never done that personally. Again, like, I think that would be interesting. I think that would be something worth doing, like hopping on a train and riding the rails. I mean, again, it sounds insanely dangerous.
But there's a difference between wanting to experience fringe culture and, look, I've dabbled in things that aren't great for you, versus wanting to continue to be an alcoholic. And here's the thing, this movie never discusses anything about addiction.
Right, like, but again, I don't think it's obligated to, personally.
No, it's not. It's not. But again, I'm, I do know people who have struggled with alcohol abuse. I do, know people who have struggled with drug abuse and things like that. And look, I'm not saying that I'm above watching movies that aren't about, like, people being, assholes, because I like a lot of horror movies and where people are assholes. So, like, but for whatever reason, the formula of this movie and this character just did not compute well for me. And to finish my point about the character of Tully, brings him back to her very nice house, sleeps with him, I guess, and then he's like, oh, I gotta go because this house is too nice and I don't feel right here. And it's at that moment where it's just like, I hate wasted opportunity and wasted privilege.
It's fair.
And just that moment, and not saying like he should have like stayed and like been like, okay, I'm going to be prim and proper man now. Like, no, not at all. Like, still be you, still do that. But like, just have some pride in yourself, man.
He said cage with golden bars. Look, I mean,
cage with golden bars. Which I get that. I get that. I do understand that feeling of like, yes, it's a different world of being like, because in the movie, her world is, she's very rich. Like, she is in that upper,
she's a well-to-do, obsessed with transgressive culture, like
white collar people. Yeah, like, I just want to have a little danger in my life, essentially, because my life has been so normal up to this point. And like, no struggles and things like that. So like, yeah, there's a whole other realm of problems that come with that world too. But I just, I think it's just the lack of character arc, the lack of just characters to actually want to follow. Because, I mean, really, Faye Dunaway's character, Wanda, is the one that I have the most questions about, and that I would have liked to spend more time with. Because I do also really like Faye Dunaway. I will watch anything Faye Dunaway wants to be crazy in any day of the week. Like,
boy, ain't that the truth about Faye Dunaway?
Like, she is great at it, and I love it. But her character has so many unanswered questions, And look, again, Charles Bukowski, not the, poster boy for feminism and women's rights and things like that. So obviously, I'm sure this character didn't really have a whole lot of dimension in the book either. And I think it's just because we get a little bit of insight that there's something going on with her, and it gives her a more like, okay, I can kind of feel for you. Like, there's something really going on with you, and I feel for you on that. Whereas with Mickey Rourke's character, yeah, he's weird and he's fucked up, and that's all you ever know. And that's all you ever get. And I get it. That's the point of his character and everything like that, because nobody really knows who he is. Nobody knows anything about him. But I think it's that little light that you get into Wanda's character that makes me want to know more versus you're just telling me who Henry is right off the bat. It's like, okay, well, what more do I have to learn then? Like,
it's fair.
If he's just going to be the same person by the end of the movie, which he is, but just the little cash in his pocket, that will be gone by the end of that night that movie ends.
I don't know. I mean, look, Bukowski's picaresque stuff is obviously like, that's what this is, right? Like, that's what they're going for. And I think to your point, it just feels like it's missing some stakes. It's missing something. And
I need a kick hair.
Yeah, Barbet Schroeder commissioned this movie to be written, and it's a great entry into the I would say the series of things about the Chinaski character. But yeah, I think ultimately, as much as I like this movie, I walk away from a lot of it going, if you'd just done this instead, or if you had just made this choice, like as much as I do like Mickey Rourke in this movie, kind of playing a character that is. You're automatically starting at the bottom, like of the hill. You've got it's an uphill climb.
And you were just refusing. You get halfway up the hill and then go sideways.
Right. Like, and that's going to be an annoying, kind of frustrating character for the audience to kind of get behind. But I think he does a good job. I do think the thing with him sticking his jaw out and kind of bulldogging the whole movie. Yeah, it's like Brando-esque. And look, I've heard people say, Mickey Rourke is like one of the last actors like that. He's very Brando adjacent. I have seen not enough movies of either actor to have an opinion that profound. I can
see it in the facial expressions and things like that for sure. But again, like I said, at the top of this podcast, I don't know anything about like Mickey Rourke's acting process. I don't know what kind of actor he is. I don't know what acting theory he subscribes to. I want to say that Marlon Brando is maybe another, but I could be wrong on that. But Marlon Brando also just kind of played Marlon Brando in everything.
Later in his career, for sure. I mean...
later in his career, yes. I mean, like, I've seen... what is it? On the Riverfront? I've seen that. I like it. I like him, I like The Godfather. I mean...
Right, like, yeah, like, he's...
stretch, like, speaking of Francis Ford Coppola, but, like, I don't know anything, though, about the acting, that like their craft and how they viewed their craft and how, they went about developing their characters. And I do find it very interesting that Charles Bukowski didn't like the portrayal of Henry. Not that I'm, necessarily surprised, knowing from what you said that this doesn't, that this character of Henry isn't really how Charles Bukowski like kind of like carried himself, whatever. But I am interested that Bukowski didn't like this, and I'm wondering, like, why? Like, for what? Was it just, like, the style? Was it...
That it was misdone and exaggerated. I mean, it is exaggerated.
Okay, so the style, yeah.
But it's like, I think ultimately it's a movie, and you have to kind of deal with the fact that you have to really kind of overdo it. I mean, friend of the show, frequent guest, Mike White, doesn't like when people portray drunk in movies. And I understand why, because for the most part, it's not great. Like, it's hard to act, let alone acting in a certain specific way believably. Like drunk,
and a character like this
state.
That's drunk all the time.
Right. There's never a moment of reprieve.
No, like just constantly in some state of drunk or, sobering up and half drunk. Like just constantly. There is not a time where he's not half in the bag, like at least, like
right, exactly.
But I mean, yeah, okay, so overdone or misdone and over exaggerated, which I can kind of agree. Like I can at least maybe if it had been less exaggerated, maybe I would have enjoyed it a little more because I wouldn't have been having such an issue with the tone and trying to decipher the tone of the movie. If we didn't have this like kind of pseudo clownish character that on one hand you should feel like really just like, oh my God, this person's life is awful. But then on the other hand, this person's life is awful. Look at him do stupid things.
I honestly kind of wish that the movie had like narration almost. Like it might have, there's part of me that thinks like this movie might have benefited from some like narration, even if it's like mild narration, just to open up the movie and close the movie.
Kind of was when he would like get like a little tidbit or a little like insight into what he's writing. Because obviously he's supposed to be Charles Bukowski, so he's writing, when he's not at the bar. And I will agree, I did like the line when he's sitting in Tully's house and she's talking about the guest house. I think they're up in like Montecito or something in California. It's the crazy, super nice, like up in the hills area. And she's like, "You could write in peace in the guest house." And he's like, "No writer's ever worth a damn has ever written in peace." And I was like,
True.
I disagree like with it as like a finality like statement and like no writer who's worth a damn has ever written in peace, but I understand the sentiment and I did enjoy that line. And I think those are the few tiny moments that I kind of like almost wanted to know a little more about this character because he's obviously troubled. I want to know why. And that's maybe, like the cardinal rule of movies, right? Like it's a show, don't tell situation. And yes, you're showing me his current state of affairs, but I know nothing about him previously. I know nothing about the future other than this. I guess I do because this is just what he does with his life and will forever do with his life.
Right.
But those little moments of like, okay, fine. He's because throughout the movie, he's very blasé about himself. Like, yeah,
which I appreciate.
Sure.
Like,
yeah,
but I think it goes to your point of like, he doesn't, there is no character growth because he doesn't care about growing.
Yeah. But those tiny moments where he's like, no, says no writer worth a damn has ever written in peace. Okay. That gives us an insight that he does have shit going on up there that is troubling him.
Right.
There is stuff going on that he is putting on a front for all intents and purposes for a lot of these things. And I'm like, I want to know more about that.
And I think to your point, that was kind of one of the things that I really picked up on. And again, I don't think they do a very good job, like you've just mentioned, of conveying it. But I think it's an interesting way of kind of interpreting the movie. It's not that he's maybe a drunk or an alcoholic, but he sits in these environments and he becomes part of them and then he writes about it. But in a similar way to Hunter S. Thompson, another person involved in transgressiveness, another person who...
Here we go. One that I actually, not a great person, can't agree with him on a lot of things, but I would rather watch and read anything that he's done versus Bukowski or Burroughs. And I don't know why.
And I don't think Hunter S. Thompson would have liked either one of us a whole lot because I think Hunter S. Thompson was a very weird dude. I don't think Bukowski would have liked either one of us.
I don't think realistically, I wouldn't have liked Hunter S. Thompson in like my presence. He would have annoyed the shit out of me. And and I'm sure the feeling would have been mutual, but
yet he wrote some of the greatest things I've ever written. Like,
yes, his perspective on things I thought was more interesting because his brand of transgressiveness is enlightening people to certain aspects of things with a purpose.
Well, and it's more observational transgressivism around like kind of not pop culture things, but socio things as opposed to like,
right.
Because, Hunter S. Thompson wasn't going and sitting in bars all the time and talking about these working class people are these quote barflies unquote in this movie. Hunter S. Thompson was involved and engaged and interested in headier things like politics and culture wars and being with the Hells Angels, all of that.
Right, which and all of these things, yes.
Which like resonates with I think you and I a little bit more than the working man, which there's nothing wrong with the working man. I love a good working man story, which is exactly what this is. However, it is a little self-serving. It is a movie about Charles Bukowski, written by Charles Bukowski. There you go. Like, I don't know how much more self-serving it would need to be. So and there's nothing wrong with that. It really is a glorification, almost even edification of this kind of lifestyle and these kinds of spaces and these kinds of places where these people live on a daily basis. I mean, we don't know what lives any of these people have outside of the bar. When we follow Henry outside of the bar, we see that there is nothing else. We know that he has more going on because he's Charles Bukowski, but I don't know if there's more going on with Wanda or with...
No, there obviously is. I want to know who the fuck Wilbur is. I want to know what that situation is.
There is stuff going on, but the movie is not concerned with that. The movie is ultimately concerned with distilling down. I mean, even more so than Factotum, which was also adapted into a movie, but that is based off of a book. Like Factotum, I mean, Matt Dillon is fine as Bukowski. I think Mickey Rourke does a better job, but it's that same story of like, I go from job to job, I fall in love with women, and I sit at the bar and I drink. Like, it's that same thing, but...
What do you do? I drink. Okay.
I'm not as much of a fan of that movie as I am of this movie, because that movie has its own problems, but I'm a bigger fan of the narrative that movie puts forward, which is, this guy is making his way through the world and we get to see these things. And this, it's like, I mean, we do see him go and try to get jobs, but again, like, it all just feels, it doesn't feel like what the movie's interested in. It feels like the movie's interested in sitting in those rooms with Faye Dunaway and Mickey Rourke, allowing them to say the lines that Bukowski wrote, which, by the way, I think the biggest success of the movie for me is the dialogue. It is well written.
I would agree.
It's like, it's so good, but is that surprising? Bukowski wrote it. Like, duh, right?
Yeah. Again, and like I said, like, I am not denying that Charles Bukowski didn't know how to string sentences together. Like that, he knows how to construct a sentence and use the correct words to like, like you said, cage with golden bars. Like, like
the dialogue in the movie sings. It really does, because he's good at writing dialogue. Of course he is.
Yes, because he's more in the poetry adjacent. Mm-hmm. Very figurative, descriptive language type writing. And I dig that. I just don't like his themes and messages and pretty much anything that he stands for as a human being. But
we haven't said the word. We haven't said misogynistic at all, but it is like, it's insanely, I won't even say it's intensely misogynistic. Like, he was a misogynist.
What I was about to say is this movie it dances around the more interesting characters and the more interesting, like, B-plots in favor of following Henry around to do his stupid things that he does every day. It dances around Faye Dunaway's character, which we haven't really talked about, but essentially Wanda is a somewhat well-to-do looking woman. Like, she's dressed in like a businessy type way, but she's very much an alcoholic. We meet her obviously at the bar. Nobody's sitting next to her because, quote unquote, she's crazy, which kind of. Yes, the character is. But again, in a misogynistic way, like, all of these women are written, which, again, the whole idea that these women are having a cat fight over this man is very indicative of Charles Bukowski putting his, hopes and dreams about himself into these stories of, I want these women to fight over me, but I want to also continue being the asshole that I am. And I would argue, because there's no physical violence from Mickey Rourke's character in this towards any women, that this character is better than Charles Bukowski, because he's not, like, I would argue that he really is, like, the moments that I kind of like this character is when he's legitimately, like, doing what his brand of trying with Wanda. It's not great, but you can sense that this character's actually, like, he hasn't met a woman like this that, like, actually understands him on the level that he's
right.
And he understands the gravity of that, because, even the most, flippant people out there still want somebody to care about them, be they friends, family, or romantic relationships. They want someone to care. So we see him kind of trying with Wanda in, not great ways, but he is trying. But I can't say the same for actual Charles Bukowski. I mean, like you said in the middle of the show, there is a full-on interview you can watch and where he just wails on a woman.
Yeah, like, straight up. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I would argue in some ways that Henry is a better person than Charles Bukowski is as a whole. Because at no point does he get aggressive or like he gets upset. But really, he's the one that takes a beating from Faye Dunaway when she smacks him with the purse. And I will say I laughed at that scene when he said, "Oh my God, there's something hard in there."
And then all of a sudden he's bleeding profusely from the head.
Horribly. I was like, what the hell was in that purse? Like, it looked like a glass bottle broke out of the purse and then just slashed the back of his neck.
Yeah, I actually would be inclined to agree with you. It is kind of metatextually interesting to think about this, the character of Henry Chinaski as, again, this kind of analog for not the audience, but for Charles Bukowski himself as the person commissioned to write this, as the person who's like, all right, I love your writing. So please write a story unlike anything you've written because this is for the screen and I want you to make this a Henry Chinaski story. And that's fine. But I think to your point, it very much becomes like the idealized version of being able to live this life, which does not include the realities of...
Which includes Mickey Rourke winning every fight he gets into with Frank Stallone's character, which includes having two women cat fight over him at the end when they have absolutely no fucking reason to whatsoever.
Yeah.
And, which is why he doesn't,
it was like Popeye feed him and he can beat people's ass too. Like it's I don't know.
Get your burgers.
It's interesting. I mean, the direction that all of this goes and the kind of ideas that the movie plays around with, I think again are interesting if you think about what Bukowski really is trying to have out with this movie. Because again, I mean, it is him trying to kind of grapple with who he is, I think. But to your point, Bukowski, the human being, was a lot more abrasive than Mickey Rourke is. This is a very toned down version, which is fine. I don't think the real Bukowski would have worked that well if they had really leaned on how much of an abrasive guy he was.
And I would argue there are absolutely points in this movie where Mickey Rourke's character, where Henry, incites the things that happen to him. But for the most part, he does kind of just wander through this movie. And even when he does like incite violence, he always comes out on. And I think that's also, feeds into an issue. One of the main issues I have with this movie is where it again, it's that kind of glorified, I'm an asshole no matter what I do, that even if my life's not that, or even if my life on paper is shitty, I'm fine with it being shitty. And I'll just continue to go on as is.
It did work out in the end. That's kind of maybe the lack of the moral or moral at all.
At the end, he ends up with money that Tully gives him for
work he already did.
For work he already did, and basically for feeling bad, I guess, for losing to Faye Dunaway in the fight.
I know that some people would watch this movie and really, again, not resonate with it. And I don't think that this movie really is a success in a lot of ways in the way I was hoping it would be. But I understand why the lifestyle is appealing and why what Charles Bukowski is putting forward is appealing. I just don't think it's reality, but that's okay. It's a movie. But that's the thing. That's the thing. If
it's not a reality, I would like to spend a lot of time.
Right. And that ultimately is the issue, is this reality of these characters is so kind of on the face of it and just upfront off-putting that it is already, again, we're, like I said with Mickey Rourke and his performance, like you've kneecapped yourself immediately because like you're portraying a drunk the entire movie. Yeah. Like, good luck. That's a hard thing to do. And also it's a hard thing to get people invested in a bunch of characters who are okay with the way that they are, which in our society, we've been told what the people in this movie do is not positive. It is a negative, and they are hurting themselves every day. And look, again, I'm not here to make moral judgments on people because, that it is what it is.
Fucking thing.
Right. But in 2023, the optics of this movie aren't great. But in 2023, the optics of Charles Bukowski aren't great either.
No, Charles Bukowski is not for Gen Z. Like, once Gen Z discovers Charles Bukowski, they're going to have a fucking conniption.
Cancel this man. He's dead, guys. It's fine.
He's been canceled. He's canceled. Life canceled him a long time ago. And he wasn't well received then either when he was around. Like, that's kind of his whole thing, is that now he's looked at as this sort of punk rock, fuck the system, fuck traditional, writing, blah, 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 blah person. But at the time, nobody gave a shit. I mean, you can tell also he lived in poverty. He wasn't living lavish.
And on his tombstone, it says, "Don't try." So.
And I fucking hate that.
I kind of like that. I kind of like that, me personally.
Oh no, it goes against everything I stand as a person. Where it's like, you know what, you have to try.
It does for me too. But at my most nihilistic moments, don't try. But my problem is I'm not as nihilistic overall. I'm not as nihilistic overall as Henry, as Charles Bukowski is.
Right.
I think he was if you're putting "don't try" on your tombstone, you're pretty nihilistic, but that's okay. I think that's a pretty hard way of looking at the world. But I also didn't, again, struggle with alcohol addiction. To say that about Charles Bukowski,
right.
I'm not sure he would classify it as struggling. I think he would classify it as well, that was just living, bro.
My thing.
Yeah, that was just living. It's just living, man. Which is fine. But again, there is a level of off-putting that this movie just has to have. It's like Requiem for a Dream. It just it just has to have. It's part of it is off-putting.
Is not a part of it. All of Requiem for a Dream is off-putting. But I will say, Requiem for a Dream does not posit anything in a fun way. Requiem for a Dream is if you do these things, your life is gonna suck.
Well, and I mean, again,
you're not gonna be happy and carefree about it.
Again, I don't think a lot of people would go on the record and say that the life that the characters lead in this movie is good, or that they enjoy it, but that's also their issue, and that's part of it.
I would argue that Henry does enjoy his life. He straight up says it multiple times in different ways of yeah, I'm a slob. Yeah, I'm a bump. Yeah, I'm weird. Yeah, I'm all these things. Yes, I'm going to go get this money. I'm going to get drunk and it's fine. I'm going to challenge Frank Stallone to a fight every night and kick his ass. He's fine with it. He's totally fine with it. And he sees no reason to not be fine with it, except for those tiny little moments where it's ooh, there's something in there. There's a reason for all of these troubles you have, but we never get to see it. Nope. But I was reading about Charles Bukowski here for a second on Wikipedia, and it says, in his early teen years, Bukowski had an epiphany when he was introduced to alcohol by William Baldy Mullinax, who is depicted as Eli LaCrosse in Hamilton. I don't know. But, quote, "This alcohol is going to help me for a very long time," he later wrote.
You know what ham on rye is, right?
No.
It's his response to Catcher in the Rye. Ham on Rye is Lord. Bukowski talking about his childhood.
Uh-huh.
And him growing up and stuff. I have never read it, but it's on my list of things.
That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see what his where he came from, what his background is as far as what his upbringing was, which I'm just saying the alcohol thing at this moment. But it said he later wrote, "This alcohol is going to help me for a very long time." He later wrote, describing a method drinking he could use to come to more amicable terms with his own. See, and that's what I wanted. You're drinking to be happier with your life. Let us in, Charles Bukowski. Talk about your feelings. Stop putting up this front of "fuck it, man, don't try." You know what it is? Let's be real here, Jess. It's how hetero of him. Yes.
I mean, it is and again, I'm not being derogatory towards people that are heterosexual, but it's a way of doing things that heterosexual men of a certain age don't like doing, which is you just said. I maybe let's talk about little Charlie. What's little Charlie doing? How's little Charlie?
What's little Charlie? For the Drag Race fans out there, let's hold up a picture of little baby Charlie Bukowski. What would you say to this little boy? And that is again, I don't think Charles Bukowski ever once asked himself that. No. But again, at the same time, think about someone like Burroughs. Burroughs ends up essentially that consumes his writing is the identity question and who is William S. Burroughs? And right.
I resonate more with that because as someone who is queer, Burroughs, the question that Burroughs asks and the things that Burroughs gets himself into and that he uses is kind of metaphorical situations for things in life, I think are more interesting than, sitting in a bar drinking with all your friends. But again, I also see, I mean, as I'm sure you do, even though it doesn't resonate with you, I see the value in it as transgressive art. I just don't think this is as successful, because I think ultimately Bukowski, like you mentioned, Bukowski is better in a literary application. And that's why the dialogue is so good, is because that's
study the way that he puts words together, study the way that he creates visuals out of the way he puts words together. What he's saying with the words, less so. Less so important, but how they're put together and the way they sound is what makes them last for people. And yes, there are plenty of people out there who also believe in whatever Charles Bukowski is spouting. That's fine. I'm sure we wouldn't get along either. And that's okay, because this is just not the reality I like to escape to, essentially. And that's the beauty of movies. There are so many different realities you can escape to. But this one, not one that I would want to be visiting again anytime soon.
Final thoughts on Barfly, Jess?
Skip it. I mean, I say skip it. I don't think that, unless you're like a Mickey Rourke or Faye Dunaway stan and you need to watch everything that they've been in, or I guess you're a big Charles Bukowski fan, then you've probably already seen this movie. But I think that it's a movie that is a time capsule, and it's delivering a message and a way of thinking that is not helpful today. It might, it was, fine at the time. It was, it was a very different reality. But as far as like watching this movie from a now perspective, which, it's impossible not to do, it's not, it's just, like I said, it's a time capsule that should stay where it's at, because messaging and theming and what it's ultimately portraying is not something that I think is helpful to society at large.
Yeah, I'm not going to come as hard down on that side of it, but I will say, I mean, again, this is a movie that's going to be very polarizing, because again, within the first 5 minutes, what you are seeing is what you're going to get for the next hour and 25 minutes.
40.
Yeah, like that. If you're not down with what you're seeing in the first 10 minutes, like you probably want to turn it off, but that's okay, because if you are on board with it and you are a fan of Bukowski, like Jess mentioned, you've probably already seen this, but I think for the most part, it's a movie that, I think is held up by Mickey Rourke's performance. And I think Mickey Rourke does a good enough job for me where I'm like, all right, I would say that this might be one I could maybe throw on in the future for just like a vibe. But again, there is a kind of ickiness to what it is, and a little less of it's not as fun as some of these other movies we've mentioned. And that's okay. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, if I'm going to watch a movie about weird people being weird, I will put on After Hours. This will not.
Yeah, exactly. I would much rather watch that. I mean, not that they're about the same thing, really.
But they have a similar vibe to them.
It's a similar vibe. It's a character study vibe of this, like that style.
But again, very much a specific time and place that is evoked immediately when you start seeing, in this movie's case, neon billboards and stuff. I mean, all of a sudden you're transported right there. But I prefer After Hours, because I think for me, After Hours is a much more entertaining movie.
Yeah.
And I mean, Griffin Dunn is better.
I need reasons to know why they're flawed, and I need to see them trying if they're my main character. There can be characters in the movie who don't have character arcs. That's fine. They're static characters. That's a real thing. That's okay. But as your main character, when your main character is this just insufferable of a person, not the person I want to follow around for an hour and 40 minutes. I would much rather be off figuring out what the fuck Faye Dunaway is doing the rest of the time in this movie. Oh, because we didn't really specify that, but for some reason she has this person named Wilbur who gives her money, but he's not her pimp and she's not a hooker, but we don't really know what she is. And we never do, because who the fuck cares about the women in this movie?
Wow. Yeah, Bukowski's not known for his female representation, and the movie's not changing that. So
no.
So
what
on
about
that,
you?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine. I think Mickey Rourke is fine. I don't know. I think ultimately at the end of the day, you could watch worse movies, but there are better movies that have more appealing roguish characters in the lead that aren't as, again, I can see the appeal of Mickey Rourke. It's just, it's going to be harder to see the appeal with Mickey Rourke in this movie for most people than it would be with, you know, I don't know. I mean, Matt Dillon in Factotum is a pretty big dickhead. So it's kind of six dozen half the other. But I mean, again, you're portraying Charles Bukowski, who, as we know, in real life,
you're portraying source material that you don't have a lot to work with.
Yeah, like he was a real life dickhead. So there you go.
Yeah.
So on that note, yeah, we'll take a break and we'll play a preview for the next Kulturecast.
Nobody believed in Johnny Handsome.
I know who you are and I know what you are. Nothing but a cheap crook.
Until a miracle changed his life.
I will give you a new face and a chance at a new life.
Now it's time for Johnny to believe in himself.
Why don't you give me a little hint, baby? Help me remember who you are.
You got a shot at a better life. You can't just throw that away.
Johnny Handsome, rated R.
That's right. On the next Kulturecast, we're going to be talking about Johnny Handsome, which is a movie about Mickey Rourke tearing his face up, which, you know, maybe actually happened.
Real life.
Yeah. And on that episode, we'll be joined by Father Malone and HP. Until then, Jess, where can people find you if they want to check you out?
You can find me on Instagram at WriterJessFired. Pretty much everything I do gets filtered there some way. You can also find me on other podcasts on the Weirding Way Media Network. You can find me on our other show, Scary Stories. You can find our other show, the One Season Show. You can find me on a myriad of episodes of this show. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and as for me, same place as always, weirdingwaymedia.com. That's where all the shows I work on are. Jess already mentioned some of them. Barney Miller, Kolchak, Dreams for Sale, other new things coming soon, maybe. Check those things out at weirdingwaymedia.com. And yeah, Kulturecast.com, Patreon.com, 10, 20, and 50. Those are the levels you can get in at, but like, rate, and review the show wherever you get it, because that's more important anyways. Jess, thank you for joining me, even if this wasn't, you know, the best thing either one of us have ever talked about together. You know, still fun.
It's still conversation, though.
That's exactly right. So on that note, we'll catch you on the next episode.